One of Donald Trump's first acts upon being sworn in as president for a second term was to appoint a new U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. His name is Ed Martin. It quickly became clear what made Ed Martin so appealing to Trump for this term. Ed Martin was at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. He said it was great, said it was like Mardi Gras. He later served as a defense lawyer for several Trump supporters who were charged with attacking police officers during the attack on the Capitol that day. Once Trump named him U.S. attorney in Washington, the top federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C., Mr. Martin immediately set about demoting and firing federal prosecutors who had worked on January 6th cases. He also, honestly, tried to indict Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in the Senate, an effort so outlandish he apparently couldn't even get Trump Justice Department officials to sign off on it. Ed Martin also tried to get one top prosecutor in his office to order a bank to freeze billions of dollars that had been dispersed by the Biden administration in a federal grant. That prosecutor resigned rather than follow that order from Ed Martin. She resigned because she said there was no crime, there was no legal justification for opening a criminal investigation and thereby freezing those funds. She said he was essentially telling her to fake a criminal investigation, and she wouldn't do it. Ed Martin, after she resigned, then personally signed and submitted a seizure warrant for the funds in that bank account because he couldn't find anybody else willing to sign it. The judge he submitted that warrant to rejected it because, again, no evidence of any crime. This week, Congressman Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Maryland, asked the Justice Department's Inspector General to open an inquiry into the behavior of Mr. Martin as U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. Raskin's letter outlined all the things Martin has done that he says could potentially deserve investigation by the Inspector General. The list runs to 9 pages, single-spaced, in small type. Ed Martin hasn't even been running that office for 2 months. Democrats in the Senate have also asked for an investigation of Ed Martin from the D.C. bar. And in a development that's surely totally unrelated, I should mention that Ed Martin and Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi are reportedly now moving to try to take control of the D.C. bar themselves. They're doing it very stealthily by having Ed Martin's deputy and Pam Bondi's brother run for leadership roles to take over the D.C. bar. Good luck with that. I'm sure nobody will notice. Is it the Bondi as in Bondi? Yeah, same last name. You might think that developments like this might create a real sense of turmoil, hunkering down maybe, or at least a lot of renewed hard work at the Justice Department. Well, let's look at what Attorney General Pam Bondi has been up to in the midst of this mess. You might recall that last week, Trump signed an executive order to punish a particular law firm because that law firm has done work for Democrats. Among other things, Trump's executive order would block anyone from that law firm from entering federal courthouses, which might make it difficult to be a lawyer in Washington, D.C. I'm just saying. The law firm naturally sued, and because the case was so important to Trump, and potentially because it was difficult to find any career prosecutors who really wanted to defend it, Attorney General Pam Bondi sent her own chief of staff, the Attorney General's chief of staff, to argue the case himself, personally, in federal court. Bring it in like the biggest guns they got. And her chief of staff just got blown out of court by the judge. The Trump administration lost that with an exclamation point. The judge said Trump's order sent a chill down her spine. She said the whole legal profession was, quote, watching in horror what Trump was trying to do and what the Attorney General's chief of staff was trying and very much failing to defend in court. Pam Bondi and Trump's Justice Department are also apparently trying to launch an investigation into the otherwise totally normal process of funding shelters for migrants in New York City. I say they are trying to launch an investigation there because they seem to be having trouble with some of the fundamentals, like spelling. At least one of the subpoenas they sent out has folks in New York scratching their heads because it went to something called the Hotel Chandler. Hotel Chandler does not host immigrants at all. It's not clear what's going on there with the Hotel Chandler, but a CBS News report does note that, quote, a source familiar with the shelter system pointed out that another hotel with a similar name, the Candler, is in fact a hotel where they house migrants. Asked about the situation with the Chandler and the Candler, a spokesman for the Department of Justice said, quote, "We will decline to comment on an ongoing investigation." Also, Pam, do you... but don't worry about it. When it comes to the really important stuff, Pam Bondi is on it. This went out from her office this week. All caps. Memorandum for all department employees from the Attorney General. Subject, ending procurement of paper straws. Quote, in accordance with President Trump's direction. The Department of Justice, she's talking about the U.S. Department of Justice, shall take appropriate action to eliminate the procurement of paper straws and ensure that paper straws are no longer provided within department buildings. Department components shall take appropriate action to identify and eliminate any portion of policy or guidance documents designed to disfavor plastic straws. Oh, you guys, the Justice Department's long nightmare is over. Today, Pam Bondi took time out of her busy schedule of vanquishing plastic straw discrimination to welcome the president to the Justice Department, making sure to point out to him the most important decor, the picture of him, after which Trump gave a long, discursive, rambling, angry speech to Justice Department employees that included basically handing them a handy list of enemies he'd like them to look into. Ed Martin at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, he seems to already have his own enemies list. I mentioned that Ed Martin tried to indict Democratic Senate leader Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is one of only several people, including several elected officials, all Democrats, who Martin appears to be targeting for investigation. He's also sent a letter to Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia because Robert Garcia criticized Elon Musk. So that got him a threatening letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Democratic Congressman Eugene Vindman this week also revealed that he has received a threatening letter from Ed Martin, this one asking about his personal finances. Eugene Vindman and his twin brother Alexander Vindman have long been targets of Donald Trump's rage and invective for their roles in bringing to light the events that led to Trump's first impeachment. This is the letter that D.C. U.S. Attorney Ed Martin sent to Congressman Vindman. It starts, quote, "Dear Eugene, do you always write your business just dear?" Quote, "I have received requests for clarification of your personal financial disclosures over the past year. I look forward to your cooperation with my letter of inquiry after requests. Thank you in advance for your assistance with this. Please respond by day, month, date 2025. That is literally what the letter says. Day, month, date 2025. Only the best people. Washington Post now reports that Ed Martin has sent about 20 of these kinds of threatening letters to public officials and public figures of various kinds. We only know about this one to Congressman Vindman because he decided to go public with it, saying Trump is trying to, quote, intimidate and silence public servants like me, and it's not going to work.